This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. This is what you would call textbook gaslighting. This is really what we're allowing our government to do to conservatives and Christians, and do the same exact thing to women out there who are identifying as liberal with all the abortion stuff, to gays, etc. They're just gaslighting everybody as much as possible. And of course, it makes perfect sense at a time when the government is just mentally manipulating the civilians so much so. It makes sense that Biden would proclaim Easter Sunday Transgender Day of Visibility. Because why not, right? Celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ with Transgender Day of Visibility. Now, for those of you that don't know, Easter Sunday in itself is not the actual resurrection of Christ. It's actually a pagan holiday. Easter, Ishtar, the eggs, the Easter bunny, fertility. This has nothing to do with Jesus, but I understand that Christians out there do want to celebrate the day as the resurrection. So they have every right to do that if that's what they choose to do. So they're obviously choosing Easter Sunday deliberately, right? This is how you would gaslight people and make them mentally so angry at Democrats and so angry at transgender and gay people that they probably will end up wanting a national divorce from one another, right? Because what they're trying to do is boil and brew this hatred for one another so much so that they could eventually lead people to where they want to lead them, to literally separate them by state based on religious belief and political affiliation. Again, that is dual communism. So why not pick Easter Sunday for Transgender Day of Visibility? I mean, what's next? Now, I know Christmas is really Saturnalia, but is Hershey's going to declare Christmas this year National Hershey Highway Day? I mean, would you be surprised? It is an American corporation, by the way. So the White House has announced Transgender Day of Visibility for March 31st, which this year falls on Easter Sunday. Quote, "Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim March 31st, 2024 as Transgender Day of Visibility," President Biden wrote in a Friday statement. "I call upon all Americans to join us in lifting up the lives and voices of transgender people throughout our nation and to work towards eliminating violence and discrimination based on gender identity." Right? So are we going to believe that he picked Easter Sunday at random? Well, of course not. But conservatives shouldn't be looking around saying, wait, what? He picked Easter Sunday for this? They should be saying, you know what? These people are manipulating all of us so much so that it's really becoming more than just irritating. It's becoming a problem in our day-to-day lives because, again, we could see and feel the results of all of the things they're doing. And this goes on both sides. This is Democrats, this is Republicans, right? This is gaslighting. I mean, it's reaching new levels. It's reaching levels of absurdity, right? So conservatives obviously know that he's deliberately doing it, quote unquote, to troll Christians, right? And of course, this is the same guy who claims to be Christian. And then, of course, you're going to have the lukewarm churches who are going to accept it. I mean, the whole thing is just a psychological operation. This right here, when I talk about psychological operations, this is how they work to a T, right? This is something that puts people in such an angry psychosis that these are the things that will affect them in the future when the government wants to come out and openly split into two, because they'll remember these things. They'll call upon these things and say, hey, you remember when they took Easter, which is supposed to be a Christian holiday, it was supposed to be about the resurrection of Christ, and they took that day and they literally told everybody out there that it was going to be a day to celebrate transgender people of all things. Now, the other thing we could look at, obviously, is how they really know how to agitate conservatives and Christians. And look, I fall into being a Christian, but I don't take the bait on these things because I understand what they're trying to do to people like us. Okay, and I also understand what they're trying to do to the other side too. They're making people unhinged. But how many days, by the way, are people going to start realizing and saying, you know what, we have Pride Month, we have Gender Month, we have this month, we have that day, we have all these specific things set aside for certain groups of people, and then start to say, you know what, the government's doing this on purpose. Even the Democrats should look at this and say, you know what, Why are they picking? If you were out there and you were listening and you're transgender, shouldn't you look at it and just be like, well, maybe we don't want Easter Sunday to be the day that they would pick because, you know what I mean? It doesn't really coincide. And then maybe they don't want to mock Christians. Maybe their mindset is, hey, we don't want any part of that day. And maybe some of them are, maybe some of them are loving it. I don't know. But shouldn't they also look at it and say, hey, you know what? They're really trying to divide us. I mean, this is a perfect example that people should use and say, look, I don't know where any transgender people were calling on Easter Sunday. Were they? I didn't see any parades that were saying we want Easter. I mean, I know the rainbow was hijacked. We all know that. I mean, would it surprise me if there were parades calling for Easter to be hijacked? No, it wouldn't. But obviously, if that was the case, we would know that that operation all started directly from the CIA also, because all these things that go into motion, they don't happen organically. Okay? This is the government literally using whatever they can psychologically to anger and divide over and over and over. So the article goes on to say, since its inception, the Biden administration has made LGBT activism a cornerstone of its policy priorities. Biden boasted in his statement that he appointed transgender leaders to his administration and ended the ban on transgender Americans serving openly in the military. All this stuff. I mean, it's incredible the two opposite viewpoints, how they look at this stuff, right? Because they get sucked into it. They get angered by it on both sides. And then you just sit back and you go, does anybody pay attention to what these people say? Okay, Trump used to be pro-abortion, pro-Planned Parenthood. I have to watch the wording here with the algorithm, right? He was all for it. Then he changed his mind. Biden used to be anti-LGBT. In fact, he was openly saying, who cares if men can get married? All this stuff openly, even as a quote-unquote liberal, right? They just conveniently switched their politics on two pretty big issues, Two pretty big issues. This isn't like a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old changing policies. These are men in their 50s, 60s, 70s who suddenly go from being anti-gay marriage their whole lives, like Biden was, and saying, that the marriage is between a man and a woman. Then conveniently, he just changes everything, his whole tune on everything, because they have people so angry at Trump by design psychologically that people out there don't even care what these people have said in the past because they're so stuck in their political party, which again is exactly how communism works. So we have dual communism again at play here. We have Democrat communism, conservative communism. Or Republican, I should say, communism. Okay? So they're going on to talk about how Biden has made LGBT activism a cornerstone of his cabinet. Meanwhile, it's the cornerstone of the division mechanism in place. Okay? And we know where a lot of this stuff filters, a lot of this mind control, where people are identifying as all these different things, all centers around mind control that they've implemented in our society on a day-to-day basis, right? Every celebrity is dressing their kids in the opposite clothes. Every movie is featuring these ideologies. Every TV show has these characters deliberately put in there who happen to identify as this or that, or have a certain preference in the bedroom, and then have a certain way that they speak, right? Have a certain way that they dress and speak. What does that one have to do with the other? Well, it's called manufacturing humans. It's called manufacturing human behavior. I mean, Larry Fink has openly talked about it. He's the guy who owns the majority of this stuff, or his corporation does, BlackRock, right? I mean, that's all that this stuff is. So the article goes on to say, in the past, some of Biden's transgender inclusive events at the White House have backfired. Transgender influencer was banned from the White House on Tuesday for posing topless at President Biden's Pride celebration over the weekend. Rose Montoya, who exposed his bare prosthetic breasts to the camera and onlookers at the official event, violated basic standards of decency and social manners. Children of the National Guard are also barred from sending in religious Easter egg designs for the 2024 Celebrating National Guard Families art event at the White House. And again, children of the National Guard are also barred from sending in religious Easter eggs. Right, so there's another way to get. Why aren't they allowed to send in religious Easter eggs? Meanwhile, you don't hear any of the cookie cutter Christians wondering what in the world an Easter egg or a bunny rabbit have to do with the resurrection of the King of Kings. But I mean, that's another story for another day. I've covered it many times about the origins of Easter, just like the origins of Valentine's. One of the last videos I was able to put up before, whatever happened a month ago, but. I did a video about Baal and the heart and the origins of Valentine's. All of these holidays, originate around paganism, but really originate around Satanism. They're all really satanic. I mean, it's so, don't be offended by what they're doing because they're doing it deliberately to gaslight you, okay? But people are like, well, now we're victims. Christians are victims. They're like, this isn't fair to us. This isn't this. Instead of just going, you know what? These people need to be removed from power. They need to be removed like yesterday. And all the Democrats out there we all need to get together, Republicans and Democrats, and just realize that they're doing this to us deliberately. And we need them to focus on, how we could, have better lives, make living more affordable, realize that all of this hatred and stuff is being brewed from them. They're creating all these fake false flag events where they're, saying it's a hate-related crime, this and that. They're doing all of it. They're doing all of it. I mean, there was a time period like recently where a Christian like myself, pretty much the majority of Christians don't agree with a certain lifestyle of other people, but nobody was condemning them to a prison. And the stuff going on now, it's all because people are getting gaslit so much on both sides that they want to, run each other off, and they literally don't want to live in the same state or same communities as one another. And it's all being done by these people. The same people are responsible, by the way, for making people think that they're born something that they're not, all through the manipulation of the mind, of course. So it says that the White House hosts many Easter traditions, including the Military Family Art Initiative and the Easter egg roll, whatever that is. Easter egg submissions must not include any questionable content, religious symbols, overtly religious themes, or partisan political statements. That's a quote from the White House, right? Children are also forbidden from making creations that include bigotry, racism, hatred, or harm against any group or individual, or promotes discrimination based on race, gender, religion, nationality, disability, sexual orientation, or age, right? So let me guess, an egg with a cross on it would be considered offended, even though the cross, the origins of that goes back to paganism as well. I mean, this is just a real easy way to gaslight conservatives. That's what it is. And that's exactly what they're doing. And, when you get gaslit, the thing that you have to remember psychologically is to do the opposite. Do not let it affect you. Do not let it anger you, right? We need to be working on the ground and getting people as civilians, as citizens, united, right? And start getting people to, and just be like, look, you might identify as this person might, let's just start at the basic common core of how we're living our day-to-day lives, right? Are you able to afford food? Are you able to afford gas? Is your rent too high? These are things that we could all, as a group agree on with what they're doing with prices. But instead, while they do all that stuff to bankrupt everybody and get rid of the middle class, everybody's angry and, putting their hands around one another's necks, so to speak, over all of these types of things, as if they're like, oh yeah, it's the Dems, are doing it. And then everybody just sticks with their party instead of saying, hey, as civilians, you know what? As civilians, like, why are we letting a government who's clearly not doing its job for the people? Why are we letting them play to our sensibilities, play to our emotions, whether it's making one certain group, making the Democrats, making the LGBT feel oppressed, and then on the other side, making conservatives and Christians feel like, they don't have free speech, and then, oh, you're not allowed to submit Easter eggs, even though it's pagan with religious symbols on it because it's hateful content. Instead of just going, you know what, screw you. Screw the definition of hate speech. Screw the definition of all this stuff, because what the reality of it is it's all been put in place by the government to eventually remove all speech that questions government and to remove all religions. And if you question this new world government, this new world, one world religion, well, of course, you'll be executed on the spot, because that's what it's going to lead to. So in the meantime, they're just trying to prepare everybody. Oh, this is a hate crime. Oh, that's a hate this. Well, you could label hate crime based on anything. If you're fat and somebody punches you in the face, is it a hate crime because you're fat? Apparently, this day and age, right? Somebody just attacks you now. Can't you just be like, he attacked me because I'm Christian. He attacked me because I'm a Buddhist. He attacked me because I'm Jewish. He attacked me because I'm gay. Oh, okay. So everything is now a hate crime, right? Exactly. The civilians need to figure this out quick because they are working you so much. So it's way too obvious at this point. That's what's scariest about it. Like if you're seeing a story like this and you're not just going, jeez, are you joking with me? Right? And just going, wow, they really are, doing everything they can to divide the two parties so much so that they can't live amongst each other anymore. Because that's ultimately what it's about. And that's ultimately like this narrative of the national divorce is problem, reaction, solution. It's not the solution that we need or want. They're creating it, okay? Because the only way they're going to get their new world order to start is to split America into two and then bring about their AI governance in half of it and then manipulate their way with the other side who will be sitting ducks for direct energy weapons, the conservatives, et cetera, right? So we should all be sitting here going, no, a national divorce is not the answer. No, we don't want this amongst our civilians. What we want is a government that works and does its job for the people instead of gaslighting them. But clearly no one's paying attention to the gaslighting and they're just going, oh, I hate the other side. I hate the other side. Exactly what they want. a national divorce. So happy what's the term? Transgender Day of Visibility on Easter Sunday. Gaslighting 101, folks. Pretty easy to see. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. God bless all of you as always and your families.